Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start this particular meeting up, Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, on May 10th, 3 o'clock, and it is 3:02, so we are starting up. Clerk, would you please call for roll to see if we have a quorum?
Senator Butler, Senator Carnley, Senator Chasteen, Senator Coleman, Senator Figures, Senator Gavan, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly, Senator Melson, Senator Roberts, Senator Sessions, Senator Weaver, Senator Gutcher.
Here.
10.
We have 10 people on the committee here. We need 7 to have a quorum, and it looks like David Sessions is walking in the door. I assume you want to be added to the roll. And then I believe Tim Melson will be here in a minute, too. He's at a different committee meeting. I'm going to give a few comments as we start. We had a public hearing, which was for SB 261, Senator Roberts' bill. I am taking that public hearing off of today's schedule. It looks like we've come to an agreement with that. Is that correct, Senator Roberts? All right, so I called that public hearing, so I'm taking that public hearing off myself. So as we go through here, we'll do normal transactions and talks as we go through. So let's start it up. SB 275, Senator Gavan, I believe you are up, sir.
Thank you. So for those of you that haven't experienced it, cluster mailboxes are soon coming to a neighborhood near you. And these are incredibly unpopular, poorly planned. And it's, what this bill would do, it would eliminate those. It would not eliminate them, of course, for apartment units. There are a few exceptions in there, but basically for new residential neighborhoods, they would be prohibited. And then to the extent that they were allowed, would be allowed to be in the right-of-way. And also puts, well, I say that if the committee were to accept the amendment that's in your package, they would be able to be put in the right-of-way, and the local governments would not be able to put additional requirements on that. So I would offer the amendment that's in your package.
So we have a motion for the amendment for SB 275. We have a second by Senator Roberts. Is there any further discussion? Having none, let's call the roll to get a clean vote count.
Senator Butler, Senator Carnley, Senator Chasteen, Senator Coleman, Senator Figures, Senator Gavan,
Aye.
Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly, Senator Melson, Senator Roberts, Senator Sessions, Senator Weaver, Senator Gutcher.
Aye. So the amendment has passed 11-0 unanimously. Now we're on the bill.
So if there's no further discussion, I would move favorable report.
So we have a motion to a favorable report as amended. Thank you. We have a second. Senator Roberts, any further discussion? And if we can use previous roll without objection, except for we're going to add Senator Butler. Senator Butler, you want to be added to the roll? Okay. He says no right now, so we're going to go forward and have a unanimous roll what that was. So here we go. What was that, 11-0? Senator Gavan, your SB 275 just passed unanimously 11-0, so great job. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege real quick and turn the mic over real quick to Marika Coleman, Senator Coleman, for 1 second to introduce a group of ladies that is in the audience with us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. You know, in the Alabama legislature, out of 140 members, there are only 21 women. Am I right, ladies? Is it 21 ladies out of 140? So it's always wonderful to see constituency groups come in. So all of those ladies in red there are my sorority sisters, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and they're here for what would normally be a lobby day, but they started yesterday and will go on until tomorrow. So just want to acknowledge their presence and thank them for coming in. And for everybody that doesn't know about the Red Army, when the Red Army gets behind a particular issue, we get it done. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that opportunity.
You're welcome, Senator Coleman. And from the Alabama State Senate, ladies, thank you for being here. All right, on to SB 261, the long-awaited. Senator Roberts, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. As we filed this bill, it promoted discussion with businesses around the state. And after, I don't know the final number of revisions that we've come to, we finally have come to an agreed upon bill. It deals with a topic that's taken place throughout the United States today. And we're really trying to specifically focus on corporate boycotts. And with that, we are fighting first to ensure Alabama tax dollars will not be used to subsidize private entities that boycott law-abiding businesses for reasons related to arbitrary and subjective standards. Secondly, it prevents business from being forced by a governmental entity to engage in other economic boycotts. And we've discussed this at great length. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for favorable.
And moving for the sub. Is that correct?
Yes, we do have a sub that's agreed upon sub, so I'd offer that sub. Everyone should have gotten it on your desk yesterday.
All right, so we have
It's also in the packet.
we have a motion. We have a second, multiple seconds, Senator Gavan, and then we're going to have discussion. Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Roberts, could you further explain exactly the businesses that you're putting this prohibition on? Is it all businesses and corporations, or is it just the businesses that the state of Alabama gives incentives to do business in Alabama?
I wouldn't call it incentives, Senator. I would say those with whom we contract is what I would say.
When you say when you contract, it means if you give a business a contract to buy their printing, that's what you mean? Or the state contracts with the business to buy their paper goods. That's what you're talking about.
With whom we contract, whoever we do business with is what I would say by that. Yes, in their contracts, we have a contract review committee that reviews contracts as well, but that's what I'm
So how would a business, can you further explain to me, how would a business go about boycotting or, what did you say, boycotting and protesting, or did I see that in the...
I don't know where you saw anything about protesting. We're trying to ensure that Alabama's tax dollars will not be used to subsidize private entities that boycott law-abiding businesses for reasons relating to arbitrary or subjective standards.
But how does a business boycott another business?
Oh, I think they could do it very easily in that.
Can you give me some examples?
I think we've seen it throughout history how that can happen, but I think we're starting to see it on a national front.
Can you give me some
down.
examples of what would happen in Alabama if this law were to be enacted?
Yes, if we will not do business with you unless you agree to other issues and has nothing to do with the good or service that you're trying to procure.
I understand that, but I need to know the purpose of this bill. As you said, we're not going to do business with people who boycott. Give me an example of what you're trying to stop.
Well, I think what we're trying to stop is a movement that's going on in the United States today that's commonly referred to with environmental social governance. And you're starting to see this. We've had 17 other states that are currently working on legislation very similar to this.
Are those red states too?
I would think.
I'm sure they probably
know.
are. Is this part of the GOP agenda as well?
My knowledge is, I don't know that's part of a GOP agenda. I think it's part of an agenda to continue to go. So we have businesses that mine coal here. We have timber businesses. We have tremendous amounts of agriculture here.
I understand that,
there
but
will be
I would
those
think
of those
this is
that could,
unconstitutional. Why would you be taking their first right, the First Amendment rights away?
Oh, we're taking no
free
one's
speech.
first rights away, madam.
I said the First Amendment's rights to speak.
I don't see that we're taking away first rights.
I think you are.
First
You're
Amendment
saying
rights
anybody
away.
we do business with. I could understand if you put that in the negotiations or the contracts that you do business with, that we're going to give tax incentives to come and do business in Alabama. I can understand you maybe putting that with them, but I cannot see you doing that to other businesses just because they want to make a statement about what is going on in their city or their state or their country.
We're not limiting anyone's First Amendment rights by
When you're
this
saying
bill.
they can't boycott something that they have a voice that they want to exert. I mean, that's what you're doing. But with that said, I just wanted to make sure I had the right understanding. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Figurs. Senator Coleman?
Thank you to the chair. I'm looking specifically now at the piece of legislation on page 7, section 5, started on line 173. The Attorney General on the sub.
Yes, ma'am.
The Attorney General shall seek to prohibit the adoption of federal laws, rules, regulations, bulletins, executive orders, or other federal actions that may penalize or inflict economic harm on, etc. Tell me how we do that.
Where's that again? Section 7?
Page 7.
Page 7, okay.
Section.
There are lawyers in the room. Supremacy clause, federal law reigns supreme. So tell me how this comes to play. There is a federal law. We're saying that our Attorney General is not supposed to adhere to the federal law.
I'm not saying we're not supposed to adhere. It says Attorney General shall seek to prohibit the adoption. We're trying to protect Alabama business. We're very heavy into mining. We're very heavy into other industries that in some states are out of favor. So we're trying to protect the largest to the smallest businesses that employ Alabamians and provide good jobs.
So have any of those industries, and of course we need that industry in the state of Alabama, but have any of those industries made statements that they truly believe in that would be impacted by this piece of
That
legislation?
could be impacting negatively
Yes.
by the legislature or
Yes.
protected
Yes.
positively.
Because
Yes,
I am in agreement
Yes,
with.
on protected positively.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
I'm sorry.
So if we have the industry that you just talked about that we need to protect.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't want to use one of the divisive issues that are out there. I could use one. Abortion, voting rights, all kinds of those types of issues that are divisive in this country. So if I read this the way the senator reads it, if one of those industries makes a statement or one of their principals makes a statement because that's what they believe, are you then saying that now they can't do business with the state of Alabama? I'm just trying to understand where we're going, because I am in agreement that, it could be perceived that certain people's First Amendment rights may be infringed upon, if I'm reading it correctly.
Okay, I still don't. What are you saying that I don't understand what you're saying we're prohibiting.
We'll go again to section 5.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Again, and I see what you're saying now as far as the adoption, the Attorney General not getting involved in those issues. Thank you for that clarification. But if there is a federal law that someone, or we'll use, because we're in a partisan world right now. So if the Democratic president right now has an executive order on a particular issue, and then someone else says, well, I'm gonna boycott those folks. Tell me how those folks are impacted. I don't want to adhere to that particular whatever. We'll use LGBTQ. That's one that's right now that we're debating in the Alabama legislature. Tell me how an industry would be impacted under this bill.
I really don't get where you're trying to go with this. We're trying to protect Alabama business
From what?
That's what I'm just trying to understand what we're doing. Now, one of the things that I have been philosophically against my whole 20 years is when we move forward with things in this body that are not happening here.
These are happening here or in the process of happening.
And I look, not even trying to be adversarial. I'm just trying to understand.
Right.
So if it's happening now, can you tell me what it is? Give me an example of what you're talking about. And maybe that will help me.
Go ahead.
No, just in reading this and kind of looking at it, one of the big issues that we've seen, and this is not Alabama companies boycotting somebody else because of a federal, whatever the federal government says. What this is doing is saying that if a company wants to do business here, they can't be in the process of boycotting an Alabama-based company because they believe in the Second Amendment. they're saying, okay, you got to have an environmental score.
So, Ms. Chair, and what I was asking the gentleman, and I hear your explanation, I wanted to know an example, just kind of make it plain. You know, I think I'm a smart person, but sometimes, you know, it takes me a minute to connect. But stories do help me.
May I give
if
a
you-
small example? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
if you just
like, if
give me
there-
an example, that's all I'm
nothing to
asking
do
for.
with
So if it's right, so if
So
there's
we'll know
a,
what we're talking.
so if a business comes
Clarity.
in and is
Yeah.
against working with a firearms company, but obviously the firearms company can, and they're not working with the firearms company, then they can't get a state contract if there's an issue there. So is one of those where exactly what you're saying, if you're able to have a contract, a company or business has a contract, has a contract where we'll do business with a firearms company, we can't boycott them. You know what I'm saying? We can't. They can't have a state contract either.
But I guess the question is, has that happened? And the because, and forgive me for interrupting, Mr. Chairman, but I guess my concern is about bills that are solutions in search of problems. And what I'm concerned about is, and there are lawyers here on the panel, aren't we, that's the Fourth Amendment. There's a Fourth Amendment violation I see in this.
All right, so we're going to start up. Senator Gavan, you're up.
Thank you. So we're not taking anybody's constitutional rights away. It's fairly simple. Use an example. If you're a lender, if you're a bank, and you want to do business with Alabama, and you refuse to, finance somebody solely because of, and that solely is an important word in there, because of they're an arms manufacturer, or because they're a coal manufacturer, because they provide they're going to heavens to Betsy beef products, and you won't do business with them for those reasons, then the state of Alabama is not going to do business with you. You can knock yourself out and do that all day long, but you're not going to do business with the state of Alabama.
It seems like that is what's coming, and this is a preventative method.
Yeah,
Is what it sounds
Ms.
like.
Chair, and that's all I was asking. And that's, I
Preventative
think I heard us ask three, is it happening here?
I would say
that
that
happened here?
it is happening here. I would say that's a preventative method is what this bill is doing. And at that, is there any other discussion? Please, Senator Hatcher.
Just a quick question. What is it, because I did hear you all say at the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, that there was discussion about, there had been some discussion, some agreement around the substitute that we're looking at, right? Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Was the business community involved in that discussion?
Very much involved. Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming
Banking industry, insurance industry, the business conglomerate that represents business in Alabama have been involved with this too.
and they reached a conclusion on
In
what we're
this
looking at.
substitute, yes, sir.
Okay, and then the next part here is again, as my colleague pointed out, Section 5, and this language is somewhat problematic to me when it says the Attorney General shall seek to prohibit. I think it's been pointed out that there is a such thing as a supremacy clause because it's saying to prohibit the adoption of federal laws. I don't know if there is any possibility for us to revisit that. It sounds like there's been a lot of movement on the bill, but I would be interested in that language of shall, because I think
Seek to prohibit. He is unable or she is unable to stop federal laws for sure, but the adoption thereof, we're basically speaking as a state that we want to not enable these laws to take place here in Alabama that would greatly impact the businesses and the citizens of Alabama.
So do you need it
We do need it.
in this language? So then again, it comes back to what I just said about the possibility of, even when you say shall seek to prohibit the adoption, I'm just concerned about if we are also talking about small government issues, right? This probably doesn't help because it's layering it. And I'm concerned that I just want to put it out there on the record that this shall seek to prohibit. If it's in there, it's in writing, somebody will have some way to go after that. And my concern, and I'm done after this, is if the business community signed off on it, I'm very concerned about what that looks like for businesses we're trying to attract to the state. You're a friend of mine. I want to be able to see my way clear with it, but I'm just not as clear with hypotheticals as it would be if I had some sort of evidentiary information that tells me this is something that's happening. Yes, thank you.
Senator Sessions, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I move to give the bill a favorable report.
All right, so right now, actually, we've
Adopt the
got
sub.
a first and a second on the sub. So if there's no further discussion, then we'll take a vote using previous roll. Did Senator Butler get on
Change
the
my
line?
vote to a no.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote. Let's go.
Senator Butler. Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures.
No.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts.
Aye.
Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gutcher.
Aye. The sub has
Chairman.
been adopted 10-3, and Senator Figures.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like for the bill sponsor to explain to me, I don't see a definition in the legislation of what a governmental entity is. And on the second paragraph of the synopsis, it says, this bill would prohibit any company in the state from being required by a governmental entity to engage in economic boycotts or other actions that further social, political, or ideological interests, including economic boycott criteria. And that's the example that I want. What governmental entity would try to make a business engage in that or require a business to do these things?
And Senator Figures, real quick before we go, I'm out of order a little bit just by having Robert Rules of Order. So we're going to take a first and a second, then we'll have discussion like we're supposed to. So excuse me
Okay,
for
I
that. So
see
we have a motion. Do we
Okay,
have
I see the.
Yeah, we're coming straight to you. Well, do we have a second on the bill the second on the sub that we've already adopted? We have a second with Senator Gavan. Back to discussion. And Senator
Yeah, I'll
Roberts, would
answer
you like
the
to?
question.
Okay, so
Senator, if you'll
okay, I
turn
see it
to
on
page
page 4.
you'll
Governmental
turn to page
entity,
4,
a
it
state
defines that.
agency, department, regulatory body, board, bureau, or commission, or any county, municipality, incorporated or unincorporated local government, or other political subdivision of the state. Where is that happening that one of these entities that would require a private business to be engaged in economic boycotts or other actions that further what I read before?
We are seeing it. We took actions before COVID got here, right? These philosophies are being pushed very hard now in other states.
On businesses to require businesses to do these things?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's not going to make sense to me, no matter what you say, I guess, because I see what's written here. So I'll just vote my no, and I know you all will pass it because you keep saying we. So I'll just vote no at the proper time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Figures. Any further discussion? All right, we have adoption on previous roll without an objection. You read a no. I believe there's 3 no's. Is that correct? Anyone else? If that's the case with previous roll, it is 10-3. SB 261 has been subbed and passed. Next, SB 252. Senator Elliott, you are up.
Senator Roberts, you're going to have to be careful bringing these controversial bills. You're going to get a reputation. Good work on that, sir. Members, we've had a public hearing on this before. There are 2 different bills, and Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to talk about both of them, go sit down and let y'all vote. Senate Bill 252 deals with participation in the state retirement system by members of or employees of the Alabama High School Athletic Association, and Senate Bill 254 deals with an audit by the examiners of public accounts to deal with of the Alabama High School Athletic Association. And I think in our conversations that I've had with many of you, the conversation is kind of centered around, hey, pick one, right? You want to be in the retirement system, or do you want to be excluded from audit by the examiner of public accounts? You can't really have it both ways, and that's why these bills are kind of traveling together. You can do one or the other, but probably not both. So I would simply submit and ask the members to to probably pick one. Y'all discuss it and see which one. But I'd like to move probably the audit bill, if that would be the one I would prefer. There is an amendment for that, Mr. Chairman, and when you get to that one, I'd ask that you offer that amendment. And other than that, I'll just kind of sit down. We've had this discussion ad nauseum already, and it's been a long day.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take one at a time. If someone has any discussion for Senator Elliott on SB 252,
Yes,
if we do. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to do that before we start.
I do. Senator Elliott, we've been round and round with your bills of revenge towards the Alabama
They're just not that. I'm sorry.
Athletic
I don't agree with that.
Association. I'm surprised they're not here. Yes,
Oh, they're
he
here.
is here.
Oh, they're here. Their lobbyists are here.
As
Their
we
public
dealt-
relations managers are here. All those folks are here.
Well, I thought that we had agreed this morning that we were going to all sit down and resolve whatever issues you all had in Baldwin County with the Alabama High School Athletic
No, ma'am.
Association.
And Senator Figures, I don't mean, I'm really sorry. I am. But whatever issues you have in Baldwin County, I can't accept the premise.
I don't have any
That's
issues.
what you
In
just said,
fact,
though. They're not.
This incident happened in my district, Spanish Fort.
Senator Figures, I have
So-
said this before, and I will say it again. This is not about that sole issue.
It
In
is.
any character,
It
in any
is, Mr.
characterization.
Elliott, because you are trying to put this particular entity in a position to have something done to it that so many other entities are part of the same system, but you're not bothering them.
Senator Figures, on the retirement portion of it, I hear your point. I take your point, and I would simply say if you want to vote no on that one, I understand. The audit provision is one that I think we could agree is the exact opposite. You're making my argument for me on that. So many of these folks that participate in these retirement systems are subject to audit. So if you want to be one, then that's fine. You need to be under audit.
Well,
Obviously,
why aren't you
with
doing it
the-
for all of them if you're so concerned about that?
I'm sorry, I've answered that question.
That's right. Obviously, with this, we're going to have some discussion. We've already had discussion, so we're going to do a roll call vote and let this one roll. So this is SB 252. Any further discussion before we vote? Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Butler. Senator Carnley. I'm sorry. Senator Justine. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions.
No.
Senator Weaver. Senator Gutcher.
No. We have Senator Butler changing to a no, so we have a unanimous vote, but that is 13-0 against the bill, so that has failed to SB 252. Next on the agenda is SB 254. This talks about having the audit. If they are in the RSA system, then do they have an audit? So this is what this particular bill is about. We're going to call roll again on this one. Oh, excuse me, I have an amendment. Yeah, we have an amendment, so please excuse me. So we have a motion for the amendment, Senator Gavan. We have a second from Senator Roberts. All in favor, please. I can't say that.
Would you tell me what the amendment does?
It is. It's in your packet, but it is just stating exactly what they're going to be auditing, and that is, if you can see this amendment here, you'll know which ones on the committee. Association of the state, period, all funds owned or held by or otherwise under the control of the athletic association shall be subject to an audit as prescribed in this subsection. And that is going to be on line 35, page 2 of the bill. Senator Butler.
Would that include all of our like high school associations around the state or?
No,
Local-
just for the athletic,
locally.
just the athletic association at the Alabama.
Statewide association?
Yes, that's correct. So just that. Senator Coleman.
Thank you. Are any of the funds that they collect, are those state dollars or public dollars?
Well, That's a good question, and it depends on how you look at that. Now, I would argue that they are certainly using public school facilities, they're using public resources, and they're charging for the use of those. And there are public schools and our public school athletes. So if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, probably a duck. But this amendment would clarify
But it
that.
sounds like the answer to that was no.
Well, no.
As far as dollars.
No, to be honest with you, and just straight with you, and you'll find this about me, I'm going to answer your question. They're going to contend no. I'm going to contend that I think it does. And here's the reason for the amendment. It's to clarify. Let's just remove any doubt, whether we call them public dollars or not. Let's just say any of the monies that they collect are just subject to audit. And again, it's important to note, this doesn't affect their operations at all, okay? It's not, we've had different bills that deal with different policies. It's just subjects them to audit, and that's all.
Do we think something nefarious is going on with the monies that they collect? I mean, if it was state dollars, I would be with you 100%. We're talking about the public dollars and being, accountable to the public on how those dollars are being used. But if these are not public dollars, and I would disagree with you that they're public dollars.
That's fair.
I just don't know why we would do this. I mean, but again, I know what more than likely is going to happen, but I just, it sets an interesting precedent. Earlier today in another committee that we were in, we talked about maybe looking at all of the boards and agencies and all of those folks at a later date, maybe even them at a later date. But it just seems a little punitive, and I'll leave it with that, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gavan, you're recognized.
Thank you. Senator Elliott, wouldn't it be fair to say that most of the dollars that are generated through that organization, through ticket sales and so forth, would go to public schools?
Sure.
A lot of public dollars there.
I would agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Chastain.
I don't have the figures in front of me, but these dollars that come into the High School Athletic Association, probably, I don't know, Mr. Briggs could probably tell us the amount of those dollars. Those dollars go back to the school systems. They're dispersed back to the school systems every year. Do we have an account of those dollars, an amount?
Yes, sir, an amount of over $2 million go back to us.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs.
Sounds pretty public to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any further comments or questions from the committee? Looks like we might have one more. No?
Chairman,
Yes, Senator Sessions.
Senator Elliott, did you speak with the examiner's office? Do they feel like this is something that they would want to do? And would it, how much is the fiscal note on this?
Of course, I spoke with Ms. Riddle and the examiner's office, as I do anytime we deal with this, whether it's in contract review or it's dealing with sunset or anything else we're asking her to do. And she's, of course, as she always is, willing to do it. We talked about the mechanism of which, and frankly, that's part of the reason for the amendment, just to clarify exactly what she's doing when and if y'all decide that this is the right thing to do.
Did she tell you how much it would cost?
I don't know. She didn't. And she rarely does on anything else we send her into.
Senator Elliott, I assume you can ask her that.
They
Then we'll bring
already
it
get
back
an
to Senator
independent
Sessions.
audit?
Excuse me,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Senator's figures.
Don't they already get aren't they already independently audited?
Independently audited they are, yes. All right, I think we've had enough discussion.
Well, let me just
Unless-
say this one last thing. I'm sure Ms. Riddle says she'd be happy to do it because she'll do anything that we legislators give her to do. But I'm sure she doesn't, but particularly with less staff and all that, she doesn't want anything additional to do. But I'll just leave it at that.
Well, Senator,
Thank you, Senator
Since
Figures.
they
Senator
already
Sessions.
audited.
yeah, Senator Figure, I'm kind of agreeing with you on that because these audits are pretty expensive. I mean, I know private audits are expensive. I don't know, what the public audit would entail. I'm sure it would be pretty pricey to do one of those also. How much do y'all, do you mind, Mr. Chairman, if I ask how much they have to pay for their audit?
They would like to answer, they can.
If they would like to.
Yes, sir, it's in excess of $20,000.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. Senator Weaver, you had your hand up. We're on the amendment right now. We've had all right, so we've got a motion second already. So without any further discussion, we'll take a roll call vote on the amendment.
Senator Butler. Senator Cornley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures.
No.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gutcher.
Aye. All right, so that's 9-4. The amendment passes for SB 254. Now we're on the amended bill. Senator, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second, Senator Gavan. Any further discussion? Not previous roll?
No.
All right, here we go. All right, call the roll.
Senator Butler. Senator Cornley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures.
No.
Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gutcher.
Aye. This bill fails, 7 noes, 6 yeses, so it does not pass. Senator Elliott, thank you for your time. I know you put a lot of time into it. Senator
We
Alvin
still
Briggs,
love you, Senator.
we do.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Briggs, Kim Vickers, thank y'all for being here and all that you do for the Athletic Association. We appreciate y'all, and thank you for spending time down here with us. As we can move on into the agenda, SB 268.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have just a second of
Personal point of privilege to
that
Senator
personal point.
Sessions.
If the Athletic Association, I don't know if y'all are willing or if y'all do or you're required to, but it would certainly benefit all of us if you would make sure that that audit is available to everyone. Or is it available? Do y'all have that posted?
I have told Senator Chastain that I would make it available. He and I had talked that I would make it available. I've talked to Senator Ledbetter, and we're working on a mechanism to release those and make those available to the entire House and Senate in a newsletter format. So I have talked to those gentlemen about making those available.
Mr. Briggs, we appreciate you doing that and keeping us up to date, but transparency is wonderful, so thank you for doing that, especially in today's governmental society.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Senator Livingston, I know you've been waiting patiently. Thank you so much. SB 268, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, committee members. This is a cleanup of the Uniform Environmental Covenants Act that took place earlier in 2012. The legislature removed underground storage tanks from the covenants, and this is simply doing above-ground storage tanks the same way. So, the covenants.
We have a motion, Senator Hatcher, for a favorable report. Do we have a second? Second, Senator Cornley. Previous, sorry.
Can we use the previous unanimous roll?
Yeah, exactly. Let's go ahead.
Please use another roll.
Let's do a roll call just to have a clean vote.
The unanimous yes vote. No.
Yeah.
Senator Butler. Senator Cornley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gutcher.
Aye. Senator Livingston, your bill passed unanimously 12-0. Thank you for bringing that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I'm glad that we had a little something less controversial.
That's right. Thank you for your patience. Next on the agenda is SB 280 from our own Senator Hovey about Secretary of State. The floor is yours, sir.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And speaking of less controversial, this bill just reduces the amount of copies of hardbound copies of our code. And
Mr. Chairman, move to give bill favorable report.
We have a motion. We have a second using previous roll. Okay. All right. It also passes 12-0. Is that what it was? Oh, we're going back for discussion, even though we've passed. But go right ahead.
Clarification.
Clarification.
Will this be available online as opposed to printed documents?
yes, these are literal just copies of the code books that they're already online. They're required to keep 10 copies and just a storage reduction.
Thank you for the clarification. Senator Hovey, you passed your bill 12-0. SB 280 is passed. Next on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is SB 290, Senator Gavan. Before we do that, I want to make sure you know you have a sub that is in front of you. That's what we're going to be talking about is the sub. Senator Gavan, I'd love for you to go ahead and talk about the sub and describe.
Thank you. And we did do a sub rather than and look, I know there's a few senators, and I'm add me to that list that don't really like to get subs in here, but there is a reason for it. Okay, and I know the general contractors in the audience. I see the press association in the audience, but there were some concerns from different industry groups. There were a few small tweaks that the general contractors asked to make, and so they're incorporated in here. I think they were mostly technical in nature. What this was doing is, just to back up a little bit, right now, if we've got a public works project, we've got to bid that out in 3 newspapers in the state. And, you know, that's just not really the way commerce is working. Look, I miss my daily Huntsville Times. I wish it was still there, but it's gone. And, you know, the contractors find out about this through other means. They don't find out through the papers. But what we did come up with was a compromise because what we were going to do is eliminate all the advertising up front and also eliminate the notice of bid completion at the end. And what we've done is we've agreed that the compromise would that we will advertise in one, I say we, all the entities that would be using this would advertise in one newspaper. So we still would have a newspaper advertisement, but this would be increasing the bids threshold from 50,000 to 100,000 and then indexing that for inflation. We're seeing that across the board. I think we've got another bill later in this package that talks about dealing with you know, the inflation that we've got. So at this point in time, I would like to move for adoption of the sub using previous role if there's not an objection.
So we are on the sub of final motion for that. We have a second. Senator Melson is seconding. Discussion. You've also worked with the Alabama Press Association to get this sub correct. And making sure that we're not eliminating anyone as far as newspapers or online. We're adding them both together. And the reason being, Senator Smitherman said something in one of our past committee meetings. Some people, especially in my area, in Winston County, in their heavy rural areas, they don't have access to the internet. And so they take everything by print still. And so I think it's a nice balance to be able to have both, and I think that's important. So thank you for doing that and bringing this bill to us.
Can I just ask
Senator Carnley?
Question in that vein there? So, and again, I'm agreeing with everything. My question was just on the newspaper's website, or on a website utilized by the awarding authority for publishing notices. So,
like there would be, say the county would have its own website.
Right.
And
is there, so the good thing about, again, I understand what we're trying to do. I guess my only concern, I voice this back to my county administrator, would be, like with a newspaper, they have to give us an affidavit that has run the appropriate amount of time. Like with a website that's maintained by the county, is there some oversight or accountability to make sure that, you know, they did post it timely or they did run it for 3 weeks instead of saying, hey, we got behind? I don't think there's, you know, I just potentially see some abuse if we don't have some oversight of a county or a city, not, you know, because if I'm a county, I'm going to elect to go this route because it's cheap, it's free. But I just want to make sure that we're not allowing bad actors, one in the county and a contractor, from saying, hey, just don't post this. And then when you give me the bid, then you can post it real quick. Nobody's ever going to know.
I think that's a legitimate question. That's something I would work with you on as we go forward, because maybe make amendment to the sub, maybe come up with a different sub. You know, all of a sudden the brother-in-law gets the bid and everybody goes, well, hell was up there.
Their last vote. All right, so any further discussion? Well, all right, do we have any further discussion, and can we use previous roll? That was a unanimous vote. Everyone was yes. All right, so that'd be 12-0. That bill, that sub passes. Now we're on the actual bill. Okay. So we need a motion. We have a favorable, Senator Roberts, second, Senator Hatcher. Put him on. Senator Butler, you won't be on the last vote count, correct? So that's 13-0. Thank you for that, Alicia. All right, so we have a first, we have a second on the bill itself now. Can we use previous roll without objection? We can, so we're back to 13-0 vote. That would pass unanimously. So again, SB 290 passes 13-0. Next is SB 291. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under existing law, local governments must purchase all goods and services that cost $15,000 or more through the competitive bid process. But there are some statutory exemptions. What this bill does is add an additional exemption for the purchase of computer programs, software applications, and purchases of services to aid law enforcement in the prevention and detection of crime.
Move for favorable report.
I have a move favorable report, Senator Figures. Second, Senator Carnley. Any further discussion?
Using previous roll.
Thank you. Using previous roll without objection. Any objections? No. That bill passes 13-0.
Thank
SB
you.
291. Thank you. Thanks for bringing it. Last on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is SB 292 from Senator Roberts. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a unique bill. I did not believe that it was a zero fiscal note, and we have spent an extended period of time. I have a page and a half that says it's a zero fiscal note. We have people from revenue here that's a zero fiscal note, and I totally support this bill, but I had to be convinced. What this will allow, this bill cuts red tape for nonprofits, charities, and other tax-exempt entities by streamlining the process for contractors to purchase supplies and materials to be used on construction projects for those entities. The bill simply expands the current process already utilized by government entities and their contractors. It does not create any new tax exemption.
We have a motion from Senator Hatcher for favorable report. Do we have a second? Senator Butler. Can we use, we do have a discussion. Senator Figures, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there something in place for documentation in terms of the nonprofits that they are in fact a 501c3, and that would be placed with that certificate or whatever from the government, from the federal government, would be attached to?
We're thinking very much in line along those lines. You already have to be in that position and registered with DOR as so. Mm-hmm. So the application for these projects that would be built, any nonprofit can't do this. It's only the ones that we currently allow tax exempt status to that we have. We're not adding any new ones. You can already do this.
Okay, so these are not one who may have a 501c3?
No, ma'am. It's not for
federal?
everyone. We're not doing, no, ma'am. It's not that. It's the ones that we as a state legislature have already given them tax exempt status in the state. DOR is already aware of that, but the process is voluminous. Each project that's built this way currently has to be papered as a new entity to form a purchasing group to then be utilized to buy this for our nonprofits that we've already exempted. This will allow them easy access through DOR to do this. And
got it.
First of all, I appreciate the AGC bringing this to us. Number two, grateful for revenue sitting in the back and working with us on this to make a streamlined process that will allow this to go much smoother in the future. So it's a streamlined process to help our already approved groups do it. So therefore, it's a zero note.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
You are welcome. Senator Gavan, you're recognized. I think Senator Figures cleared it up, so that's good. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last bill of the day. We have a first and second. Can we use previous roll without objection? Is there any objections? Having none, that bill passes SB 292, 13-0. I would like to say one thing before we leave. I appreciate everybody on this committee taking your time, speaking your mind, working through differences on different issues. And normally we try to be as efficient as we can at this particular meeting during FRED, and sometimes they last a little bit longer than others, but thank you for today and your participation. With that, we are adjourned.